My name is Mark Kirshner, and I'm the Director of Planning with the Piedmont Authority for Regional Transportation, and will be your host for this morning. This webinar series is co-sponsored by the Public Transportation Division at NCDOT, as well as North Carolina Public Transportation Association. If you are not familiar with NCPTA, it is an association set up to help promote transportation within the state, as well as to provide services and assistance to all the public transportation agencies in the state. We are partnering with this because we at NCPTA have a very strong interest in professional development and training folks. Myself, along with Rodney Harrison, are co-chairs of the training committee. We also have our annual conference coming up in 2019, which I will talk about in just a little bit. A little bit of housekeeping. If you could, within the chat box, please enter your name, location that you're from, and the number of people that are participating with you. This is very important information as we continue to track and monitor the success, as well as the interest in these lunch and learns. We do feel that they're very valuable, but we like to capture information from folks, how many people are listening in. We will also use that box at the end for some Q&A. Our presenters, Jason and Molly, will be glad to answer any questions about that. We are also recording the webinar and our previous lunch and learns and Blair Chambers with PBH will send out information to everyone as to when that recording is ready. And let me circle back around to a small technical glitch. Our ability to mute folks seems to be having some difficulty. So on your side, again, if you can be super quiet and or mute yourself so that we can keep background noise down, we would certainly appreciate it. Today's lineup, normally Debbie Collins with Public Transportation Division would be joining us, but she was not available today. So shout out to Debbie that we miss her, and we appreciate her effort in helping with these lunch and learn. And let me give a super shout out to Blair Chambers at Public Transportation Division and NCDOT. Blair is our counterpart in terms of putting these lunch and learns on. He's the one that does the communications with you. He's chiefly responsible for getting our subject matters together, getting the recording done, as well as switching up who the presenter is. So it's an important function for everyone in us being able to provide these lunch and learns. So thank you, Blair, for all that you do. Our topic this morning is public engagement. And our partners down in Charlotte and fellow planners down there have done some very exciting work and interesting work as they have updated their system down that way, and they have taken public engagement to a new level. I have been around for quite a while and can remember when public engagement was having a public hearing that no one wanted to come to and no one could attend because it was at night and all those difficulties, to we're now engaging people through their iPhones and other digital devices. So this whole arena of public engagement has been a personal study of mine over the last couple of years, and it's almost out of favor to go where people are. That's one thing that has been done over the last couple of years, but now we're having pop-ups and now we're having a lot of digital engagement. And I think in addition to that, a lot of the tools and the data that is available and the visualization of that data is so critical to be able to reach the public. So it's real exciting that maybe got Jason and this was a session event at the PTD conference that was held back in Chapel Hill several months ago that due to certain circumstances couldn't be presented. So we're glad that we're able to get this out and get this presented. So with that, Blair, if you could switch over the presenter to Molly. And while you're doing that, our two speakers today are Jason Lawrence, who is Senior Transportation Planner at the Charlotte Area Transit System. He has been there for 18 years and lead transportation planner for Transit Corridor, the 2030 Transit System Plan. He's been involved with the line, which is their light rail system down there in Charlotte. And Jason has a bachelor's degree in earth science from the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. So my master's degree is from UNC Charlotte as well. So we welcome fellow 49ers to the panel today. Our other presenter and speaker is Molly Carter, and Molly is the transportation planner, again with NATS, the Charlotte Area Transit System. And Molly has also worked in zoning administration, so a real planner coming up through the ranks in public transportation. And she has a Bachelor of Arts in Government from the University of Virginia and a Master's in Urban and Environmental Planning from the School of Architecture at the University of Virginia. So we welcome both Molly and Jason, and I will turn it over to y'all.
Great. Thank you, Mark. And I apologize for if you hear some background noise. I'm on the train today, so if you guys hear some horn whistling, that's what it's coming from. So Molly and I are not in the same space, so if you'll be patient with us as we kind of go through each of these slides, we'd appreciate it. We're really happy to be talking to you all about today, and glad you're able to be a part of this makeup session from the PTT conference that was canceled last year. So I'll just, Molly, if I'll just say advance maybe to go to the next slide might be the best way to go.
Yeah, no, that's fine, thanks.
Okay. And so Molly and I are going to kind of go back and forth on this, but I wanted to, before we get into the different engagement things that we are doing and strategies, give you a bit of a background of who CATS is and the kind of services we do, and kind of give you a bit of background and what we're trying to do to look ahead to our existing services and our future. But CATS was not an agency prior to 2000, and where we got our start from was the successful adoption of a 2025 Transit Land Use Plan in 1998. And with that came the half-cent sales tax that to date has funded our transit operating and capital inside of Mecklenburg County. And it was a vision for a long-term growth strategy for 5 rapid transit corridors, but also expansion of our bus route network. And we've updated that plan a number of times, and we're doing a big update now that will wrap up in February of this year. Okay, next slide. So advance. And in our plan today, we have a number of modes for rapid transit services. We have bus rapid transit and streetcar fixed rail, light rail, and also in our long range plan is also a couple of commuter rail lines. Advance.
Sorry.
That's okay. And so, and in our system today, we certainly have more than just our rapid transit services. You know, kind of our profile and our service area. We serve about a 1.2 million population service area in Mecklenburg, and also we have regional express services in our neighboring counties, and 62 local and express routes and 3 regional routes. We have 20.6 miles of rail service between our streetcar CityLink Gold Line service and our light rail service with a portion that just opened in March of last year out to UNC Charlotte. And each day right now we're averaging about weekday ridership around 80,000. Next. And our our comprehensive planning efforts that we're doing now is two-phase and 2 points. One is to update our 2030 transit system plan to look at strategies of how to build out the remainder of our light rail and other rapid transit corridors, but also a full redo and re-envisioning of our entire bus network. And Molly's going to talk about strategies we've used to do public outreach for Envision, but also, and I'll handle what we've been doing for the system plan. So today, the 2030 Transit System Plan, we have those 5 corridors I spoke about earlier. Well, only 2 of those are currently operating. One to the south to Pineville for a light rail, and one to the northeast to UNC Charlotte. We still have 3 to go, and we're looking at ways to advance the Link Silver Line from Matthews to the airport, and also a commuter rail to the north. But we're also going to talk about strategies of using freeway-based BRT, bus rapid transit, along express lanes, and also other enhanced bus corridors. And invariably, these kind of conversations lead to trade-offs, and that's mostly of what our engagement for the future of our system has led to, are these trade-offs between the different modes. So I'll hand it over to Molly to talk a little bit about Envision My Ride.
Okay, thanks, Jason. So we began our Envision My Ride effort in December 2016, and this was done in an effort to reimagine and redesign our current bus network. So as I'm sure you guys can imagine, it's been a huge undertaking for our department. The reason that we really started to realize that our bus network was in dire need of help was after realizing that despite the unprecedented growth that has taken place over the last few decades in Charlotte, with all of the jobs, the people moving here, the development that's going on, our bus network really largely remained the same. So as I'm sure that many of you know, we've seen a lot of changes over the last few decades with the opening of the Lynx Blue Line and the Blue Line extension, the streetcar, paratransit, and a lot of other rapid transit modes that we're really looking at focusing on in the future. What's interesting, however, is that the majority of our ridership is actually generated from non-rail vehicles. So the people that are riding our bus service are basically, the largest amount of people that are using our system in general. These factors really suggested to us that a change was needed to better serve our dedicated bus riders and to also improve our network. So with that in mind, we sought to create a bus network that really honed in on a few guiding principles. The first would be connections to opportunities, so bringing people closer to their jobs, closer to their homes, closer to places that they really needed to go to. The second was crosstown networks, so reducing a need of traveling in and out of Uptown to our transit center just to travel back out to another area that's further outside of the Uptown area of Charlotte. Another thing that we were looking at focusing on was providing more frequent service, which would give people more of an opportunity to make connections and to reach their destination faster. And the last thing that we really looked at was providing more reliable and direct routes. So just to kind of show you a little bit of what we are working on, at least in a visual sense, the figure to the right shows our high-frequency bus network framework. So on the left would be the current network, and then the right would be our post-Envision My Ride network. Just for some context, we define high frequency as 15 minutes or greater service. So as you can see, we were able to increase the number of high-frequency bus routes from 4 to 17 throughout this initiative, which is pretty huge for our riders. Right now, we're currently rolling out Envision My Ride incrementally. So we did a little bit with the March service change. We did a little bit more with the October service change. And we're going to be doing more over the coming years. And the responses that we've received from our riders so far have been pretty positive for the most part. So Jason, are you there?
Oh, sorry, I unmuted for a second. Sorry about that, Molly.
Okay. No,
so the big question is, when you're talking about these trade-offs, I mean, if you're creating, more crosstown routes, you're creating more opportunities for transfer. If we're talking about, building out, billions of dollars worth of future light rail, there's going to be trade-offs about what that does for land use and how you access the stations. So we have to get creative in how we, differently engage in our audiences. And sometimes when we go out to the public and they hear us speak, I think this is what they hear, and hopefully the audio will come through on Molly's machine. So maybe click next, Molly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes
let's see. No.
Okay. Anyway, so
I don't know.
So sorry, guys, but what you were supposed to hear is when people are, oftentimes you'll hear the Charlie Brown voice when people are listening to us. We kind of drone out, and then if they walk away, there's kind of that womp womp kind of feeling if we're not engaging with them in a more intentional manner. So if you click next again, Molly, what we have to do is start thinking about what are some strategies to better engage the public so we're not just talking heads up there in front of the community. So hit next. And so we do have your traditional engagement strategies. You have your advertised public meetings. We go on the bus and engage directly with our customers. We do written surveys, and we also do a number of pop-ups and do these like trade-off, the DOT exercises that are so commonplace and a lot of our effort, asking, is it speed versus access, mixed use versus standalone stations, and parking and service at peak times. And we've done some pop-up strategies throughout. Go to the next one, Molly. We hope to get we have a grant to do a mobile town hall, so we're going to take around an upfitted van that's been done in a couple other communities. So we hope to implement that next year, and we continue forward, Molly. We've been doing some pop-ups and at parks, doing like coffee in the park, catching people as they pass by, more non-traditional public meeting methods. And also we've done some other opportunities. Next slide. Weekend type of things where we have games for people to play and surveys to fill out at the same time, just to be more inviting to the general public. And then also the next slide, we've done some, weekend level types of workshops that where we, low tech with just paper out there, no presentation. And also, I think, it's important to know, sometimes people need childcare at these meetings. So we, consider space for children. If you're able to, at some like either a weekend setting or, non-traditional times, I think that can help your space to be more inviting. But today we're going to be talking more about digital engagement strategies. And next slide. And I'll hand that over to Molly.
Yeah, so now that you've seen some of our traditional engagement strategies, we're going to focus more on the changing digital landscape and how this in turn affects our rider engagement. We have a large number of public meetings. Between Jason and I feel fairly confident in saying that we've hit probably 100 public meetings over the last year. And from interacting with our customers, we really noticed a few key changes in how they want to interact with us and how they are expecting to be able to communicate with transit providers and also with customer service. The first is the rise of digital engagement. So people are more connected now than ever on social media, whether it be through Facebook, Twitter, anything else. And CATS does have dedicated social media pages, but we are finding that people are really relying more and more on their cell phones for information. We're also noticing a lack of time and resources amongst our riders to be able to attend meetings. We really do try to host meetings at different times of the day and at different locations to make it easier for our riders, whether we have meetings in early morning, midday, later in the afternoon, or even later in the evening. But we're always hearing from them that it's difficult to make those meetings, whether it be just work schedules, transportation, childcare, a wide variety of factors that make it difficult for them to actually attend our meetings. The last thing that we've noticed is an increased demand for easier access and interaction. So customers want to be able to reach us quickly. They want to be able to reach us as soon as there's an issue and not have to wait a long time to hear back from us. So these kind of combining factors have led us all to think, okay, how can we leverage new technology to assist us with this problem? So we will be discussing these tools for the remainder of the presentation. We found it to be really helpful to reach customers in a more quick and more efficient manner through using tools such as Remix, StreetMix, ArcGIS Online, MetroQuest, QR codes, And those are really going to be what we're focusing on for the remainder of the presentation. So we have some examples.
So part of our system update piece, we used a survey tool called MetroQuest and found it to be a very useful tool to illustrate trade-offs. And we had close to 4,000 people fill out the survey. So a lot of good outreach for that. It had some great outputs too. Next slide, as you can see, between showing that people could rank the different options. I will say this: the tool works better. We found we did 2 times with MetroQuest, once early in our study and then once later in our study. The first part of our study, we asked about trade-offs. Do you want the train to come more frequent or only in peak times? Do you want access to destinations or just access to entertainment? The second time we went out, we asked people to compare different alignments. And so I think that MetroQuest works better in that trade-off scenario. Showing maps and comparison between multiple options was not as great as we felt as a tool for MetroQuest. So next slide.
Great. So another tool that I'm sure that many of you are familiar with that we do use fairly frequently is SurveyMonkey. We use it to get feedback from customers on a fairly frequent basis. So whether it be that we are doing a detour that we think that a long-term detour that we think that customers will either really like or really not like, or whether it be for a survey or a service discontinuation, we really have found that it is an easy way for us to get customer feedback. One example that recently was hugely successful with using SurveyMonkey was with the Gold Rush discontinuation, which is a route that ran from Johnson C. Smith University to the Transit Center. It was a free service and it was very popular because it went down Trade Street in Uptown, which is a very, very popular main street in Uptown. So people would use it to get to work, to get to school, to go to lunch, and it was free. So people really loved that. The issue, however, was that it follows the exact same path of phase 2 of our streetcar construction. So we currently have phase 1 of the streetcar, which goes to the transit center, and then people will be going from the transit center to Johnson C. Smith University. Because of that, Trade Street was being constantly shut down for construction, which made it very difficult for our buses to travel along that path. We needed to conduct a very quick survey to see how riders felt about this continuation, and I believe that we needed the results, very quickly, like within a week. So we were actually able to get a huge number of online responses through putting up QR codes at each of the stops along the route. If you aren't familiar with QR codes, they are a free tool that you can use using a QR generator online. And then customers, all they have to do is just scan the code with their smartphone and it will take them right to the survey site. We also rode the bus to survey people, just in case there were people who didn't have access to smartphones. And we wanted to make sure that we hit all of the different, we wanted to make sure we hit smartphone users. We wanted to make sure we hit people who just wanted to fill it out via paper. And by doing that, we actually received 579 responses in just 4 days, which was great for us. What was really cool was that of those responses, 517, were done completely digitally, which showed us that online surveys are really the way to go if you want a large number of results very quickly.
And then also we Facebook stream live all of our, as much as we can, our events. This is a couple of examples of Molly and I doing that. I'll note that at one of our meetings in the town of Mooresville, people will ask questions on the commenting and chat forums, and we try to respond quickly, but we didn't respond quickly enough in the town of Mooresville, where a guy was, I think, maybe 2 blocks from the meeting and was working out, and actually came to the meeting and his workout closed so he could just answer questions, then went back to the Facebook stream live piece. So we found this to be a really effective tool as well to promote our digital engagement.
Right. So what's great about that tool is that people can comment on the video itself, and then either we would respond to the comments, or our marketing people, or the people who manage social media, would respond to the comments. So it was a really great way to increase our engagement numbers and to provide opportunities for people who maybe weren't able to attend the meeting to make sure that their questions are answered. So another tool that we use day in and day out is called Remix. So we use it all the time to service plan for buses. It's a cloud-based tool that allows us to use our routes that we use today and to also plan out our routes for the future. If you're not familiar with Remix, it has a lot of really great features that really simplify and streamline service planning, like providing cost estimates and general schedules. It also provides really good demographic information like total population within a quarter mile of a stop, percentage car-free, limited English, minority, low income. There's really any kind of data that you could possibly want, Remix has available. We use Remix a lot internally, but a lot of its tools make it really good for public engagement, which we will discuss a little bit further. So a tool that Remix offers that's really great is called the Jane tool. Jane is a little figure that you can drag and drop, and she will tell you how long it will take you to go from certain areas to certain areas from a specific point. So if you're looking at this screen, you can see there's this little female figure that's right there. So all you have to do is click at the bottom button, and you can drag Jane to any location that you want. And she drop her, and then each of the isochrones that are right there will tell you how far it will take you using the transit system to get to that point. So the spots that are directly around her that are clear are spots that she can get to with the current transit system in 15 minutes. The spots that are the darker blue are the spots that she can get to within 30 minutes. The spots that are a teal color are the spots that she can get to within 45 minutes. And then the spots that are pink are the spots that she can get to within an hour. So she can also tell you how many jobs or population is within each isochrone. So you can see on the bottom tab, it says that there are there's 3,000, like about 3,500 jobs within a 15-minute radius of her, and the number just keeps increasing. So within 60 minutes, there are over 300,000 jobs that she can reach. So the left tab shows how far Jane can get in an hour with Envision My Ride. Southside Homes is a low-income community that is south of Uptown. So we wanted to see before and after how far Jane would be able to get using the before Envision My Ride network, so the current network, and then the post Envision My Ride network. So what we had redesigned the bus system to look like with better service, better frequency, better connections. So you can see here that within 30 minutes before Envision My Ride, there were 65,418 jobs within 30 minutes using the transit system that as it currently is. So you can see that after Envision My Ride, the isochrones have increased greatly. Jane is able to get to way more space than she was able to get to beforehand. And you can also see that the number of jobs increased within 30 minutes as well. Another example is North Lake Mall. So you can see the same thing happen with Jane when you're looking at this area. There's a huge increase in coverage and also jobs with Envision My Ride, which is great. We really like using the Jane tool to provide a visual for customers when we're going to them with the proposed changes, because it's a pretty strong visual that really allows customers to see the impact of our proposed changes. We also use Remix a lot for on-the-fly planning engagement with customers. So oftentimes we'll have customers come to us and say, well, why don't you bring the bus here, or why don't you combine these two routes? We're able to pull up Remix at public meetings to show customers why this may or may not be a good idea. I'm going to show you guys an example that we worked with recently. So let me just pull it up right here. Hold on, so I can escape. Hold on. Well, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to escape from here to access the actual tab, but that might be something that at the end of the presentation we can go back and try to pull up. But we have a current example would be with the Route 6. This is not the Route 6. This is just an example of a route that you could draw yourself. But with the Route 6 currently goes from Uptown Charlotte to the Metropolitan and Carolinas Medical Center. And in the October 2018 service change, we pulled service out of the Cherry neighborhood on the Route 6 to streamline service along Kings Drive. And this was met with a lot of criticism. It was It's a neighborhood that has historically always had transit service. It is not a far walk from Kings Drive, but people really did want that service. We were able to use Remix at public meetings to show, however, that the time and the cost savings was pretty substantial, which helped explain things more to them and helped kind of show them why our rationale and why we came up with that decision using hard facts. You're also able to create your own routes on Remix, which gives customers a chance to flesh out their ideas as well, which is kind of what's shown in this image. And I'm sorry that I'm not able to pull it up right now, but maybe later. So what you can do is you can actually create a new route and then just start dragging and dropping to design your own route. And then on the bottom, which you cut out right here, it'll tell you how much it costs a year. It'll tell you how many stops. It'll tell you the total population within a quarter mile. So a lot of times we have customers who will email us and say, hey, I have this really great idea for a route. Can you go ahead and plug it in? And we're able to create the image or create the map for them, send it back over to them, and then they're able to say, okay, well, this is, they're able to see more hard facts about the route that they want, and we can use it for service planning in the future. Another tool that is really great from Remix that we have used frequently is the online comment tool. So you're able to put out a public map, and then the riders are able to go on the web page and add their individual comments. It's a pretty simple process. I'll show it over the next couple tabs. So we had the Envision My Ride public comment map available on our main web page. All customers had to do was hit Add Comment, the button at the top, and a little button would pop up that says they could write anything they want. Some people would say, I love this is great. Some people would say, I hate this is terrible. But once they hit send feedback, that would go directly to the map owner, which was me. So I was able to get direct feedback on all of these comments, and then aggregate them, put them in a spreadsheet, and really analyze them. So riders can either provide comments on the system map as a whole, or if they wanted to zoom in on a specific route, they would be able to highlight it, go very close, write the same feedback, and then send it, and it would send it to me along with a screenshot of what the screen looked like when they were commenting, which is very helpful for separating out which routes people were commenting about. So we use this tool when we were looking for public feedback on our Envision My Ride network redesign. So we invited riders to interact with a Remix map and to provide comments over the course of about a month. All the comments were sent directly to me, and I sorted through them and aggregated them to analyze them for future service changes. We actually received 326 unique comments, and then we did analyze these comments to adjust the final Envision My Ride recommendation. So you might be wondering what kind of comments we received exactly. So as to be expected, a majority of the comments were either neutral or negative. We did have some positive comments, but as to be expected, anytime you're doing such a big service change, some people, people have very strong opinions about how transit should look like and what the service should be in their area. We noticed, so this did help us determine shortfalls in areas that we needed to work on. But we also noticed specific trends that honed around certain areas and routes, which we have listed here. We have a couple of them. There were probably about 20 different trends or areas that we noticed, but these were the major ones. So, for example, common requests that we received centered around extending the Route 14 down to Waverly, which is a new mixed-use development in South Charlotte. So after we saw all these requests, we realized that something needed to be done. So we extended the Route 61X, which is an express commuter route, in October of 2018 down to Waverly. And right now we're trying to find space in the budget to bring the Route 14 down there within the next year. We saw similar things in the Valentine area with Route 43 and with West Boulevard for the Route 10. The Route 43, we are currently requesting funding for a shuttle service for commuters from our light rail, so the 485 station, which is the southernmost station on the Blue Line, to Valentine, which is a largely corporate. I mean, they have residential, but the people who are trying to get down there are, for the most part, commuters who would like to use rapid transit, would like to use light rail, would like to use the bus, but need a reliable way to get there. With Route 10, we received a request for a variance to serve the Women's Crisis Schedule. We had probably 20 people comment on that map about how they needed a variance to serve that area. And we actually implemented the variant in October of 2018. Overall, this tool was great to be able to quickly and efficiently identify areas of need in our service model, and we found it very helpful in our Envision My Ride effort.
Okay, great. Thanks, Molly. And I guess the same thing will go for this as well. We were hoping to kind of show you some of this interactivity, but if we have some time afterwards, maybe we can do that. But oh, wait a minute.
Hold on, there's my email. Okay. Got it. Okay.
So, Molly, do you want to do this? Yeah. Do you want to do this really quick then, and I'll do the street mix?
Oh, with Remix? Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to do? Okay.
Yeah. So I guess kind of what we were discussing earlier with the Route 6. This is the current Route 6. So you can see the inbound and outbound routes. We have the schedule, you know, obviously it's not 100% exact, but it is a rough estimation of our schedule. So you can see what it currently costs a year, and you can see the total population, total number of jobs. And then we actually removed service from Ferry, so this area right here. So you see that it increases the cost, not by much, but definitely by a little bit. And we were able to use this to show residents, okay, well, maybe if we don't have service here, we could have service around here. It's a good tool to be able to show our riders different ways to map out different scenarios. Another thing that we're able to do, which I was discussing earlier, is to create your own route. So no, we do not have a route named the Moonraker. But what Remix likes to do is when you add a transit line, it creates its own name. So we have the 25 Calypso that has decided to name our new route. But customers are able to say, okay, well, can you have a route go from Uptown Charlotte to, let's say to Sugar Creek. Say we want to go up to the Sugar Creek neighborhood, and we also want it to go up to 85. So what you're able to do is you're able to kind of draw a route, and then it estimates stops along the line as well. You can also kind of have it go into certain areas that maybe, it gives you the fastest route that you would possibly want to do. But you can also have it kind of veer off on certain areas. So if I wanted to have it go up to North Graham, I can kind of keep drawing around and have it do basically anything that I want it to do. And then it will reflect in the overall cost and then the overall runtime as well. So that's really what we had to show with Remix. I know Jason wanted to discuss Street-Mix a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So we'll go kind of quickly talk about Street-Mix and get to you all's questions. But Street-Mix is a free online interactive tool. It's still free. I don't know if one day will become like a packaged product, but at this moment, it's a free tool. It's streetmix.net. And it's a great way to illustrate right-of-way trade-offs. And what I've asked Molly to bring up is, in a lot of our communities, you have, 3 or 4 lane cross sections, 10-foot lanes, maybe you got sidewalk there, back a curb. Well, when you're going out to community and maybe you have 60 feet to work with, and somebody says, well, let's try to fit bike lanes in there. And you could take this tool and drop in the bike lane and see what that looked like. Says, well, it'd be nice if we had some planting strips in there as well too, and you could throw and add in a tree on either side. And then what this starts to show you is that, well, you're going to have to start making trade-offs for here. It's just the planting strip versus the tree, or the tree versus the bike lane. And then in the case of like rapid transit planning, if we wanted to put a light rail in the median running, like we have on our North Tryon Street, if you take light rail and drop it into the middle of that. So if you'll grab on the far right-hand side, there's a light rail, and drop 2 of those in there, and then and then you there's one called Buffer.
Oh yeah, I have that in there on the side.
So if you can also, so if you take those and expand those out, you could say, well, how much space you need between light rail and travel lanes, and then what if we wanted shelters for those bus stops? And on the far right, there's a shelter graphic. You could drop a shelter behind the sidewalk, or if you want to show it, the potential for a station in the median. That's what Molly's showing there. I mean, I guess you could probably get the gist here that, depending on the right of way you have, be it 30 feet, 40 feet, 100 feet, or 200 feet, you could start to mix and match the type of things that you need within that. But you could also show, okay, this is what you need if you want a median running light rail in a 4-lane cross section. If you want to maintain those travel lanes, this is the right of way impact that you'll have to start looking at. And
hello, Jason. So I'm assuming that you guys are still able to hear me.
Yes, Molly, we are.
Okay.
Maybe if you could just continue on.
Okay, so Jason was kind of wrapping it up. Street Mix he has used with more frequency than what I have used, but it is a great way to illustrate trade-offs and to be able to do that in a public setting and to have riders or just community members be able to really understand what goes into designing streets, particularly when you're looking at designing streets with updated transit amenities such as bike lanes, bus lanes, transit stations, streetcar, bunch of different things. So with that, I guess we just have questions at this point. Thank you guys so much for listening in, and we would be happy to answer any questions that you guys do have.
Okay, thank you, Molly and Jason. We appreciate y'all sharing a lot of exciting stuff that you're able to do there. Blair, let's just keep it on their slides for a second as we go through the Q&As. If you have questions, enter them into the chat box, and we will try to address those as best we can. If we don't get to every question, the recording does capture those, and we can certainly get back with you. One question that we've already had that I'll go ahead and provide some answer to, and that is about the Remix tool. The Remix tool is the software that you do.
I'm back.
Hey,
sorry,
Jason. That's okay. We went on without you, and we're into Q&A now.
Okay, good. Okay, cool. How long was I out?
Just a couple minutes.
I think 48 hours.
Oh yeah, so like a good weekend.
Yeah. So Remix is a software tool that it does have a cost to it. There are a number of agencies in North Carolina that do use Remix. I know the Triangle has it, as well as we use it here at PART. High Point Transit is a user of Remix. They have been very progressive in terms of improving the tool. They even have something similar to StreetMix Now, which is a module that you can purchase, but if you're in the transit world, it does your timetables, and they have a scheduling module now that you can use to create your driver schedules and paddles and things of that nature. So it's really pretty impressive. The other part of that question about Remix was someone that talked about bicycling and using it for bike networks. It is not necessarily set up for that, but there are some settings that you can set for the speed of the vehicle. So I'm thinking that if you just wanted to see how long it might take a cyclist to go a particular route, you could set the speed for 4 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour, whatever you think the bicyclist might be traveling, and get some information there about the length of time that it might take to move on a route. But But otherwise, it is very much a transit planning tool. It can accommodate all sorts of modes, light rail, as well as just bus. So I hope that provided some information about Remix for everyone. I guess to Jason and Molly, I sort of had the question about, can you estimate either the amount of staff hours or the cost for these engagement efforts that y'all had?
So I'm still married, so at least it wasn't too many hours to do that. But I would say for us, from CATS, and I'll say for Envision My Ride, that was a completely staff-led effort. For the system update piece, when we have these kind of big meetings where we advertise and we have like consultant help with those, where we have a lot of materials. But when we say like the 100+ meetings, those are us just going out to the community to like Honest Club, all your civic organizations, neighborhood meetings, coffee shops, pop-ups. I would say from the staff side, it does take a lot of it, but I would say that our most effective kind of face-to-face engagement has been those kind of smaller scale going, basically taking the mantra of going to where people are and meet them at their time and their space is a really effective tool, and still do your large scale public meetings. But I'd be hard to say like how many staff hours. I would say a good deal, but I would say in any given week, I've probably got, two meetings. I would average that out. So you could, I would say at least half a day to a day a week, I'm doing some kind of engagement in the public. And I know Molly's got anything to follow with that.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with Jason. There are weeks where I have no public meetings, and then there are weeks where I'm literally never in my office because we have 7 public meetings over the course of 5 days. So it really does vary based on the initiatives that we have going on, especially with the work that I do with bus service planning. It really does depend on whether or not there's a service change coming up, because not only do we, for service planning, not only do we just do public meetings, we also are riding the buses, we're going to the bus stops, we are out interacting with riders at the transit center. We're really trying to meet people where they are so that there is as much information spread as possible, but recognizing that we are, only a couple of people, we're not a team of 500, we really do rely on digital engagement tools to help us get those people that we otherwise would have missed.
And I think I would also add too, so what's unique about, I think, for Charlotte Transit compared to, other, transit agencies across the country and maybe even in the state, is that we're still a department of the city. So we're a county funded, but city department, our boss reports to the city manager. So we're able to have really good relationships with all the other city departments. So if CDOT department, Charlotte Department of Transportation is having a meeting, or if the Charlotte Planning or Housing and Neighborhood Services are having meetings, we will often pair with them and just be there, because we're one city, people often have questions about transit. So we'll count that towards our engagement. And then just seeking those relationships with those civic organizations, Latin American Chamber of Commerce, just trying to find, build those relationships. And over time, we felt that those, over time, will snowball to other relationships, and you'll start getting invited to lots of things.
Thank you. One other question is, we have lots of systems across the state that are varying size, and sometimes they're one-person shops. Could you spend just a moment and kind of reflect on how you can scale this down, and maybe how some of the when Facebook Live and things, again, can be scaled down to smaller systems and smaller communities?
Sure. So I would say if you're, just creating some level of social media presence. Now, maybe it's just a page, or it's whatever, if you're part of a city, it's part of the city page, so that you can have some kind of platform to do the Facebook Live. Because the Facebook Live, all it really takes, it could be just your own smartphone. So as long as you've got a smartphone and an easel or some kind of thing to hold it for you. I mean, we've even propped these up like on a box before, just so people can see it. So as long as you've got a smartphone and a page, you can do the Facebook streaming live. Now, it may be, you know, you want to manage the expectations. If you're a one-person shop, you don't want to also say, I'll give the presentation and then I'll also will respond to your questions at the same time if you don't have that space. Just managing those expectations up front of what you're able to accomplish. But for the Facebook piece, I think that's a fairly easily scalable piece. Now, the remixes, and that's going to, you know, comes with cost, so that may be more difficult for smaller agencies. But I know in some communities, they look to their local MPO to be the funding partner in that, and seeking other funding pieces. But I think that even if you're a one-person shop, just being like people know that you're there, like local neighborhoods, it's just, you know, building that database of points of contact and sending out email blasts, I think would still be something you can do. Now, if you're one person, it's hard to be everywhere at once. But I think those are things that just about anybody can do. But the more technical things like Remix might be a bit more complicated, you know, primarily from a cost standpoint. I don't know if Molly, you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think Facebook Live is a great and easy way to get customer engagement. A lot of the times, at least for us, I don't know if it was the same with you, Jason, but all we had to do to get the Facebook Live stuff up was that one of our marketing people came out to our meetings to film us. Now that doesn't mean that you have to have a marketing person come with you to your public engagement. It just, for us, since they were the ones who were managing our social media accounts, it was easiest for them to just come film it and be able to upload it online. But like Jason said, I mean, you can really do it if you have a smartphone. Anybody can do it. You can even do it yourself. And we really didn't do very, very long. We didn't really, at least for us, I know Jason, sometimes their meetings were broadcasted over Facebook Live, but for us, our meetings, all we would do is just give a very brief snippet at the beginning, so like a 2-minute summary of what we were there for, what the changes were going to be, and then showing them, kind of giving them some close-ups of the maps that we had provided, really was helpful because it allowed riders to see, you know, people just mindlessly scrolling through social media and being able to say, oh, wait a minute, I'm seeing that there's a change that's happening, I should pay attention. Remix, I think it works well for us because we have a lot of bus routes to manage and we have a lot of different factors going in. Now, that doesn't mean that I think that an agency with, you know, 10 routes could not benefit from Remix, because I honestly think everyone could benefit from Remix. I'm the biggest Remix enthusiast probably in all of CAT. But for us, the way that we use it to interact with customers might be a little bit different than the way that an agency with a smaller, smaller service network may use it. But I definitely think that all of the tools that we described, even the online survey tools, so the Survey Monkeys, the QR codes, I think all of those can be adjusted and either scaled up or scaled down, depending on your service level. And
I would also add too, last thing I would just add too is just building the relationships with local jurisdictions. And so if they're having outreach, then you can just partner with them, because half of the work to do these meetings is the setup and finding the space. So if somebody else is already doing something, just, you know, you could just show up at somebody else's meeting is a really good option as well.
Yeah, I would say probably at least for bus operations, which is what I work in primarily, like 40% of our engagement efforts are done in conjunction with another group. So whether it be with Jason's group, so the link system update, whether it be with the planning department, whether it be with UNC Charlotte going to their student environmental fair, we really do look for opportunities to tag along to other other public meetings or planning events, because we know that there are already going to be people there. We might as well capitalize on the fact that we have an audience that maybe wouldn't necessarily just come out to only a bus meeting, or maybe wouldn't necessarily only come out to a light rail meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Blair, let me ask you to switch back over to our closing slides while we have two more questions that were in the chat box that I think can have quick answers to. And one kind of relates back to what you were just talking about, but when you have meetings that you're asking people to come to, or when you're having your Facebook Live event, are there any special methods that you've been successful in terms of encouraging people to attend?
Oh, sure. So we do, we do the traditional advertisement type of stuff. I mean, we'll put something in the local paper and, various publications. We have like a sign up, notify me, it's called, that people can sign up for whatever. They automatically get notified for meetings. And then we have our Facebook page that we'll pump information out there for that too. So if people like your page or, Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, then they'll automatically see that. And then we get people that'll share it. You have our own kind of like promoters that'll help with that, and finding those people that can help us with that. But also, when we're constantly doing this engagement, with neighborhoods, we're also telling them about, here's the next time you can come out and talk to us. This is the next piece that you can come hear us.
We also, at least what I've done in the past too, is that when we're having a public meeting and we want to have a public meeting in an area that we know that has significant changes, we will typically email the neighborhood associations in the area. So, we can get the contacts either from community development. Sometimes I've found neighborhood association contacts just through Googling the actual neighborhood and then emailing them, because neighborhood associations tend to, especially the active ones, tend to want to know about these things. And sometimes they'll even invite us to come out to their public or their neighborhood meeting so that we can meet people while they're there and just give them a little feel about what's going on. They can ask us questions, and then they can continue on with their night.
I'm going to take this one about QR codes, but if I misstate something, someone please correct me. QR codes allow someone to be able to scan that and take them directly to a web page. So you don't have to type in a long web page address or get one of the tiny URLs. It's just a quick way on a poster or a flyer or a postcard to say, hey, for more information, go to this website. So you do have to have a QR reader on your phone. So that's kind of the deal with that. And then one final question about your public meetings and I guess your Facebook Live. Do you ever record those? And is that some video that you could share?
Oh yeah, absolutely, Mark. Yeah, we record those. I mean, they're recorded, they're embedded on the site. So I mean, if you go through our stream, you can find them. But what we can do is that we can find those and make those available afterwards if people want to show, or at least give the link or share the direct link to the post.
Yes, excellent. So thank you very much. Those are all the questions in the queue. And if you could share that link with Blair, and Blair, when he posts the recording and the PowerPoint, that link will be there for everyone to go and view. Jason, it was a special honor to have you riding transit while you were doing this webinar. I know that might not have been planned, but I think it came off okay. So, thanks to both you and Molly. Thanks to both of y'all for all the work that y'all do in getting out into the public, in particular, and sharing information. I really appreciate it. A couple small things. Again, if you did not, within the chat box, please identify yourself as having attended, where you were calling in from, and how many people were with you. We've had as many as over 45 people, at least calling in. So again, we appreciate everyone taking their time to get information. Coming up, our next Lunch and Learn is going to be March the 8th. Blair and I are still working on some ideas and possibilities for that Lunch and Learn. if you are enjoying these and have a particular topic that you would like to see addressed, please let Jason or myself know, and we will be glad to put that in the queue and work on that. Or if you have something yourself that you would like to present, give you a chance to be part of a webinar, consider that as well. The NCA MPO, or the annual MPO conference here within the state, is coming up on April the 24th and the 26th in Charlotte. I was on their website earlier today and didn't see any registration link, but that should be coming up soon. So pay attention to that. For those of you in the public transit world, I very much encourage you to attend the state MPO conference, as well as to try to be a presenter sometime and talk about public transit at those conferences. And then NCPTA, we're having our annual conference coming up in May as well, right after the MPO conference. There's a 2-day rodeo, which is for our drivers and operators, and that happens on Saturday and Sunday. And then April the 29th through May 1st is the actual conference. That conference is being held in Wilmington, North Carolina, and the registration for that opens up on January the 14th. And you can get some information about the conference through the NCPTA website. And we hope that if you have not attended the conference, that you check out the session schedule and find something that is of interest to you. So with that, we will close out today. And again, thanks to Blair and NCDOT for helping make these Lunch and Learns possible. And we'll be signing off and thanking everyone for joining us. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.